Hey, how's it going, everybody? Coach Kyle here, and today you're going to get the rundown on some recent vegetarian, vegan related studies to keep you up to date on what's important. So, the first one is from May of 2020, titled Vegans, Vegetarians, and Omnivores. How does dietary choice influence iodine intake? And it was a systemic review. So, iodine is a mineral found in some foods that the body needs to make thyroid hormones, which helps control the body's metabolism and many other important functions such as proper bone and brain development during pregnancy and infancy. Iodine deficiency can result in goiters and hypothyroidism, so low levels of thyroid hormones, unpleasant conditions that are best to be avoided. So, does practicing a vegan diet influence the risk of iodine deficiency? And so this was a study, it was a systemic review of 15 studies that included randomized trials, non-randomized trials, and cross-sectional studies. And there was a total of 127,000 participants, adult participants, over these studies for this review, and the researchers examined their iodine intake and status among the different dietary groups. And they did find that vegetarian and vegans, especially vegans, were associated with a slightly higher risk of lower iodine statuses and thus potentially iodine deficiency compared to omnivores or less restrictive diets. The researchers suggest that people following a vegan diet might benefit to make a little bit of an effort to consume some extra iodine. And it's not really that hard. Seaweed, iodine fortified salt, or supplements can easily reduce the risk of iodine deficiency. The vegan supplement, the vegan multivitamin I take from Holier, does contain iodine in the form of potassium iodide from sea kelp. So if you want to try this supplement or any of the other products I mentioned in this video, check out kylekranz.com/vegstudies July 2020 for the full article and the links. So next up, we have a systematic review and meta-analysis that included 30 observational studies and 10 intervention studies looking at the relationship and the effects of vegetarian, not vegan-based diets compared to omnivore-based diets in terms of inflammation and immune status markers. Plant-based eating is typically high in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, etc. Many of these foods are high in vitamins, antioxidants, minerals, phytochemicals, and these may help reduce inflammation and protect against chronic diseases. This review of the literature found that vegetarian diets were indeed associated with improved immune status and lower levels of C-reactive protein and fibrinogen. Both are markers of inflammation, and especially C-reactive protein is a marker of inflammation that can be tested. And vegetarians had lower assumptions of this. And I would assume that the people that were consuming a vegetarian or vegan diet are making these improvements and feeling the benefits due to, I think, two main reasons. The first is that they're probably consuming more whole food plant-based items on this vegetarian or vegan diet. And second, people who are on a vegetarian or vegan diet might simply be more mindful of the quality of their food sources in general. This means that not only are they eating more plants, but they might be consuming just less processed garbage in general. So, even omnivores could take this as motivation to not necessarily cut out meat if they don't want to, but improve the quality and the quantity of really healthy items in their general diet. So, you don't have to be a vegetarian or vegan to benefit from just eating more whole food plant-based items. And the next study looked at the effects of a vegetarian diet on blood pressure. It was a systematic review and a meta-analysis of 15 randomized controlled trials with a total of 856 participants, with the goal of determining the effects of a vegetarian diet on blood pressure. And there's a substantial amount of evidence that suggests there are great health benefits of a vegetarian diet. Such eating patterns, being a vegetarian, a vegan, can reduce a person's risk of almost any sort of negative health condition, from heart disease, cancer, glycemic control, body weight, body composition, and blood pressure. So this meta-analysis did find that both a vegetarian and a vegan diet did significantly reduce blood pressure compared to an omnivore control diet, where the participants had improvements in both systolic and diastolic blood pressures. And in general, again, I assume the benefit here isn't always or 100% so much related to the lack of meat, but the improved quality and quantity of whole food, plant-based, just more vegetables, more whole grains, more fruit, more healthy, wholesome, nutritious food in their diet. But of course, I would rather see people go vegetarian or vegan. But again, if you're a meat eater, still, improving the quality of your food will make a difference. And now we have a study for the sprinters and the weightlifters out there, and even for the endurance athletes. But creatine is one of the most studied sports supplements available legally on the market, and it also happens to be one of the most effective. It's generally not super recommended for endurance athletes, but it can benefit endurance athletes. But when it comes to people who are lifting heavy weights or sprinting, there's a really big benefit. Creatine is naturally found in animal products, and it has been suggested that vegetarian or vegan athletes who don't consume these foods may have reduced stores. Creatine is stored in your muscles with water attached to it, so you might gain some weight on creatine supplementation. And there's been research in cyclists that found that this extra weight didn't really negatively impact performance. But this systematic review included 9 randomized control and prospective studies with a total of almost 400 participants. And they did find that vegetarian athletes who consumed a creatine supplement had increased serum markers that were often even at greater levels than their omnivore counterparts in these studies. And the creatine supplementation improved exercise performance, muscle strength, endurance, lean tissue mass, and brain function. So creatine supplementation, not a bad idea for any athlete in reality, but maybe more so for vegetarian or vegan athletes. And now we have one more study, and it's not necessarily a vegan or a vegetarian specific study, but it's one about beets or beetroot powder, beetroot juice. And supplementation or drinking of this has in general gained a lot of notoriety in the last decade in regards to improving your athletic performance. The nitrates, it's complicated. The nitrates in beets are broken down into nitrites, which are circulated in your body and turned into nitric oxide. Elevated nitric oxide levels provide a healthy and hearty benefit to your running. It's vasodilation, so they make your blood vessels a little wider, and this helps nutrient and oxygen circulation in your body. In April of 2020, so this year, a study was published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research that included just 11, so it's a small study, 11 resistance-trained men who were put through a bench press and speed, power, and repetition until failure test with or without beetroot juice. And they consumed the juice, beetroot, or the control blackcurrant juice, and then 2 hours later, they did the test. And the results are intriguing. They found that after taking the beetroot juice, the participants were able to generate more power and speed on the bench press and perform more reps until failure. The results indicated that acute beetroot supplementation does positively influence velocity, power, and endurance during these free weight tests. And this was only with these participants taking it acutely 2 hours before the test. Now I drink mine. I drink a little bit of it every day with tart cherry concentrate powder as well. So I hope you found these helpful and interesting. With so much kind of anecdotal evidence spread around the internet, it's good to continue to hear what people have to say with their own experiences, but also looking at more controlled studies or reviews to take some of the emotion and expectation out of testing a supplement and diet, and look at the hard facts on what worked and what didn't work in these studies. And it's important to keep in mind that these studies, the results were only for the people in the studies, so it might be different for you. Chances are it might be similar, but it could be different. So you have to take into consideration this and think about, is it worth trying or is it worth not trying? And in most cases, things like these beetroot, creatine, they're not going to negatively impact you at all. And so it might be worth giving it a shot for 2 or 3 months. You got to give it time to take an impact. You can't just test a supplement for a week, but it might be worth trying it out, seeing how you feel after, during or after the supplementation period, and then making a judgment call. But I hope I gave you some review, some information to maybe make some of these decisions in the future. And if you ever want to talk through these ideas, these decisions, it's a lot what I do with my clients. And as somebody who is a vegan who tests these things on myself, it's interesting to see how it feels, how it works, and pass on that information to others. So if you're looking for a coach, somebody to help you along the way who is not going to question your eating habits or ask you where you get your protein from, let's get a hold of me. Let's chat. KyleCrans.com. What I don't want to hear from you is that you wish you would have contacted me now, 2 months from now. Get a hold of me now. Let's get started. Let's get rolling on your diet, your strength, your running ability, your mindfulness. Nail that down now, so in 2 or 3 months you're not wishing you would have started now, but you're better off than you are now. So I'm Kyle Crans, and as always, you keep running, I'll keep coaching.